We're going to talk now to Labour MP Afsana Begum, who has criticised Frank Hester's comments and was actually sitting next to Diane Abbott at PMQs today. Thank you for being with us. What did you think about the fact that Diane Abbott was being discussed but was never called to speak herself by Lindsay Hoyle?
Well, as you said, I was sat next to Diane and I found it incredibly odd that it ended up being the case that she was being spoken about and spoken for without her being given a chance to speak for herself.
And I mean, the Speaker's office says, look, it was an issue of timing. Do you accept that?
I mean, look, I think it's, I spoke to many colleagues today and I think there was just a general feeling that given the extraordinary nature of the situation and the comments that have alleged to have been made by Frank Hester, that this could have been a chance for her to, because she was bobbing, to be able to be given an opportunity, especially when you're sitting in the chamber and seeing that others are being able to speak about it, and she is in the chamber herself.
Yeah. Do you think that Labour should restore the whip to Diane Abbott?
Absolutely.
And if so, why?
Absolutely. She should have the whip restored. She is a trailblazer. Diane Abbott is a trailblazer. She is, one of the strongest and most powerful advocates for the British black community. She is a hero of the anti-racist struggle. All of this needs to be recognised. She has had a tremendous parliamentary career to date, and she should have the whip restored.
There is due process, although some might suggest that due process going on for almost a year is a long period of due process. She was accused of anti-Semitism in that letter she wrote to the Observer. She did apologise almost immediately. I mean, why does it take 11 months to come to a conclusion?
I can't explain that, but as you said, she apologised immediately. This process that she's expected to undergo is taking a very, very long time. And the Ford report, which was undertaken by Martin Ford, talked about Diane Abbott's specific experiences of racism. There hasn't been any accountability about the treatment that she has faced and she has had in the party to date. And she's undergoing this process on top of that. I think many do question what has happened since the Ford report was published, and whether there has been a real following up and accountability around Diane's specific treatment.
Well, Diane Abbott, as Joe was telling us, has written a piece in The Independent where she's very critical of the Conservative, her accusations of racism, but she also says the Labour Party has questions to answer. And she's tweeted tonight, racism is not the preserve of any one political party. You mentioned Martin Ford. For those who want to be reminded of what happened, he investigated racism in Labour in 2022 and reported essentially that there was a hierarchy of racism in Labour in which anti-Semitism was taken more seriously than discrimination against black, Asian and Muslim members. Does that chime with your own experiences?
Absolutely.
Does it?
It absolutely does. And, I say that as someone who is a woman of colour, a Muslim woman, the first hijab-wearing MP in Parliament. And I would say that I've been quite vocal about my own experiences and experiences of other black Asian women in the party who have undergone, and had similar experiences of racism and not felt adequately supported by my own party.
What does that tell you?
Well, I think that racism and misogyny is prevalent in society. It's unfortunately a part of my daily life. And then when you see someone like Diane, where the reports suggest that Frank Hester had made comments such as that she should be shot, I think it's incredibly frightening. And I think that you do expect and you do want a level of institutional support from every institution possible, but also your own party.
A duty of care. Absolutely. Diane Abbott herself said Frank Hester's reported comments made her fear for her safety. What effect do they have on you?
Well, again, I think that there is no ambiguity in terms of those comments being racist and misogynistic. So I think the Prime Minister's response has been unacceptable. And I think, what message does that send to people from diverse backgrounds, from ethnic minority backgrounds, in terms of being able to engage in public life and in politics? I don't think it sends a positive signal at all. And I do worry about the way in which women of colour in particular can participate in politics and in public life.
I mean, you're young. You were elected in 2019?
That's correct.
Can you imagine, I mean, do you say to contemporaries or to young women coming up, you must go into politics, it is worth it? Or would you not be able to give that recommendation?
I think it's always hard to be the first. And I think, I look up to people like Diane because as the first black woman MP, as the longest serving black MP, she came out and supported me when I stood for election. She helped launch my campaign, and that meant a lot to me because I can only imagine what her experiences are going through yet another episode of facing racist and misogynistic attacks. And I think it's difficult. I think that I often still do encourage young people to come through in politics and engage, but I'm also mindful that I have a responsibility to also inform them of how difficult and horrific it can be quite daily.
Thank you very much for being on Newsnight tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Afsana Begum.